Hello and welcome to the kitchen table. It's Alison Southern here, Team Vicar in Melksham Team Ministry, and a very warm welcome to you this Tuesday afternoon. It's good to gather again. I had a nice day off yesterday, but it's good to be back and reconnecting again across the airwaves. How are things going for you this week? This week is Carers Week in the UK. It's a week where the focus is given to those who give so much of themselves day in, day out to care for those they love, to care for members of their family. And I just wanted to think about Carers Week and what it means to be a carer. The statistics are huge, numbers are massive. It's thought that there are over 6 million carers in the UK. I think that's probably an underestimation. And during this lockdown period, they have said that there is probably another 4.5 million who have joined that number, people who have found it very difficult to get the normal care they would get to look after members of their family. And the pressures are different in lockdown. There's an increase in mental health issues, which means there is a rise in those who are young carers, usually, as well as a rise in alcohol misuse. All of the things that are pressure points, if you like, are really intense at the moment. So families are under pressure, and families who are in a caring role are under even more pressure. Of course, for those who care for loved ones, it is a hard task. It can be sometimes overwhelming. And I know there are many moments of absolute joy, and there are people who give of themselves to do this again and again and again because they love the people that they are caring for. And that's really important to value and to recognise the relationships between the carers and those they care for. But not to the exclusion of seeing the strain that that might put on families, whether it's you living with somebody with mental health issues that might be going through a really bad patch, or physical disabilities, that it's just the sheer grind of physical care that is exhausting. So how do we as a society recognise those who care? How do we ourselves recognise if we are a carer? I think for many people, tasks that are undertaken out of love just happen without any thought of labelling, I'm a carer. They just are acts given in love. But it's really very easy for us as a community to turn a blind eye, if you like, to those who are busy and absolutely involved in care day in, day out, night in, night out. It's so hard to recognise sometimes what's going on right next door to you. The door closes and a family gets on with what they need to do, how they get on, how they care. This week is about helping people to recognise the carers in our midst. This week more than ever, I think, during lockdown, when the pressure is on and people are living in households of mixed generations in order to support one another in this time of lockdown, then it's even more real for people. The Carers Week that focuses our mind on that gift of giving and love and care, I think is also a really good time to think about what it is to care. How do we care not just for those that we are living with and actually doing the physical work of caring, but how we care in the more global sense of the world around us. These past weeks have seen riots on the streets or protest march, depending on your point of view, but people gathering to protest against inequality. How we care for those who feel that they don't have equality in our society is also about care, and how we care about our ecology. What we think about the world we're living in is about us caring for the planet. So how do we as Christians have some sense of what the Bible has to say about being a carer? Well, I think all the way through the Bible we are shown what it is to be loving, and Jesus tells us to love one another. What it means to love one another as we would love ourselves, to care for someone as we would want to be cared for. And that's right down to how we tend to someone with dignity and compassion, and how we tend to our nation with dignity and compassion. Two very different things, and yet totally connected by that sense of care that we might have in our hearts. And that's about compassion. It's also about passion for one another. It's about that care of everyone in our midst. In the Bible, in so many ways, we are told of the care for widows and orphans. We are told about Jesus healing lepers, people who were really sick and on the margins of society. The other day from the kitchen table we talked about the issues of the man who was Legion, the man with the many voices in his head. Jesus healing people who are sick in body, mind and spirit, and helping others to be aware of the care that is needed for the most vulnerable in our societies. So everything that we read in Scripture points us to the direction of that care, of that understanding of the need for care, and also for the support of those who do care. So I don't know whether you are caring for somebody today, every day, whether you are tired and weary, or whether you are feeling blessed in the privilege, and I suspect it's probably both. How are you being supported? Do you know how much you are valued? It's very difficult, isn't it, to put a value on how we care for one another. And yet, it does have such a value. If you're interested and you've never really thought about the impact of what it does to care for somebody and the financial impact of care across this nation, I just urge you to maybe go online, do a bit of a Google search and look at the millions of pounds that is being maybe saved by the government, if you like, by informal carers, people who are busy tending and caring for people. But the numbers are vast, and every year more and more people need care. It's not an issue that's going to go away. And although I'm probably being a bit gloomy, I think the reality of coming out of post-COVID will be austerity measures. The things are going to get tougher, and that means those people who are suffering most or are having the least support are going to be squeezed and squeezed again. What does that mean for us as a community, maybe of Christians? What does that mean for us as a community of people who understand the need to care in our society? Whether you are being driven by the call of the Bible to behave in a certain way, or whether you just have a conscience and a care in your heart that makes you think, how can we help? Over the coming months, as we begin to find new ways of living and things do get tougher, I think we all have to notice what's going on in the houses around us. Maybe if there is somebody there that you are just aware of doing a lot of care, is sometimes as simple as a smile and a "how are you today?" and waiting for the answer. It's sometimes as simple as an act of kindness that just takes the pressure off. The questions are really important, but listening to the answers are even more important. We can't make our world a magically wonderful place with nobody suffering, nobody struggling. Those pains of life are very real. The numbers of those affected by things like dementia and Alzheimer's will be growing year on year as our population gets older. All of those things are very real. And we have to think about how we can support people in that situation. And I do think it's about a smile, a question, listening to the answer, and then working together to find ways of helping. So this week, in Carers Week, notice what's going on around you. But don't just leave it to Carers Week. Think about it always. There are so many young carers that my husband Derek used to work as a young carer support worker, and he used to say, if you cut through the middle of them, you'd find carers written right the way through, just like a stick of rock. And my own son, when I was having fits at just 18 months, I can remember waking up after having an epileptic fit, and David had covered me with a book and a blanket and a magazine, trying to cover me up, not knowing quite what else to do. Real care, even at that young age. We need to recognise the cost that has on lives. We need to recognise that we are here to reach out and to offer that hand of friendship and help. And we're here to show love, because that's what each and every one of us needs, as well as practical help. So, as we go through Carers Week, think about it, maybe do some research, find out what's happening in your world, in your country, in your town. And maybe, just maybe, we'll all get better at caring for each other. See you again tomorrow night. God bless. Take care. Bye.